Hello, I'd like to talk about my process for designing the enemy encounters. So, if you watched the previous blog thing, I was a bit nervous about starting out, and I was sort of afraid that it wouldn't turn out well. But so far, things are going well, and I just wanted to talk about what I'm doing and sort of my approach. So, firstly, when starting the enemy encounter, I wanted to have a really sort of visceral, unpleasant sort of death animation for the player. If the enemy catches the player gets killed, and we wanted it to be really brutal and unpleasant. So one of the inspirations was the bloater in Last of Us. So like the bloater like tears your face off, and like that makes people uncomfortable. Like my wife was watching me play the game, and she's like, because I mean that just the way they do it, and right when they cut it off, it's so perfect. So that was sort of the inspiration for that, and once we nailed that, um, it already seemed promising. It seemed like, hey, we got this really cool animation. I think people are really going to dig this. So then the next step was to basically, what did we do next? Well, then we sort of wanted the enemy to behave. So the enemy would just walk around, and then when he saw you, he would, or when he got close enough, he would grab you. But that wasn't interesting enough. Well, firstly, we did like a patrol, so he'd walk back and forth. That's very helpful for gameplay. I find, like, I played Outlast recently, and it's definitely a cool game, but I found myself frustrated just because it's a stealth game, but you don't know where the enemies are half the time, 90% of the time. They walk away, but maybe they don't walk away as fast, or they hide, which I guess helps for unpredictability, but I definitely found it a bit frustrating. That being said, I'm not really a stealth gamer, and it seemed targeting more stealth, people more excited about stealth. So simple patterns seem like the best, and actually, I was really worried that simple patterns might be too simple, especially, the sophistication of the enemies you see in Outlast is definitely cool. But I think for our game, it's not really about stealth, it's not really about that, so I think we can probably get away with simple enemies. And so it's interesting because in working on the enemy, I realized that I had to work on the camera. So, if you play our current demo, you can't see very far ahead of you. And that's problematic if we're going to have an enemy, and we're doing some cool stuff with sound, and the 3D sound will get louder as the enemy approaches, but, I mean, I think just relying on sound is a bad idea, especially because, maybe you're playing on a mono speaker. Please don't use headphones, but potentially, it's difficult to pinpoint where the enemy is and how close he is. So basically, I did a new camera system. So from enemy, I go to camera system, and then basically it sort of, well, it's complicated, but it tries to look ahead if you're walking forward, and the motion is all smooth. And it's interesting, Joe commented that it was really cool not even knowing the whole enemy thing and looking ahead. He just liked the new sort of smoothness to the camera motion. So I was happy about that. So then that really helped, because then basically you can see the enemy. But then I felt like, well, the enemy should charge you, just because that's much more tense. If he's, just sauntering leisurely towards you, that's not intimidating, there's no tension there. So then I put in a charge behavior. The problem was, because, I mean, our main character is pretty big on the screen, and, the enemy is here, and then he charges you, he gets to you before you can react. And then so what I did was I added the a notice animation. So then he reacts and telegraphs, and you say, "Oh, I know that he's going to charge me now," and then it gives you some time to move away. One of the interesting things in game development is basically the idea of telegraphing moves with animations. Pretty much, it's the dirty little secret of good game design is essentially you have to inform the player of what the enemies are going to do before they do it. And this can occasionally be done by voice, like flanking left or whatever, but Gears of War, I think they say something about, oh, we're going to flank the enemies, or the best was in Psychonauts, in the Goggle segment, the boss would say the attack he's going to do, like exaggerated name move or whatever, which I thought was really brilliant. But so doing this notice animation really, I think, helps convey that he's going to charge. So that's about where we are. It's definitely still early. There's a lot of other different behaviors and interesting things I want to add to the enemy, but I think we have something cool. I think, you know, the character, the enemy running at you feels intimidating, and the if he catches you, it's definitely it's pretty brutal. So happy about that.